The light behind his eyes. My mother had barely been gone a month when my father brought his late first-love son into our home. I hated this intruder from the moment he stepped through our door. I assigned him the most remote bedroom, kept the milk away from him, banned him from the pool. I thought my hostility was crystal clear. But one day, the boy approached me with flushed cheeks, holding out the heirloom pendant he always wore. "Thank you for always taking such good care of me, Autumn." Me? Him. "I'm shy around people. I'm afraid of water, and I'm lactose intolerant. You're the first person who's ever considered my needs." My father never forgot his first love. For years, even after she'd married, had a child, and divorced, he'd kept tabs on her, helping from the shadows. The day he brought Asher Thorne home, I was at my second-floor window when his voice cut through the air. "Autumn Mercer, get down here." Below, a lean boy stared up at me with an expressionless face. He was tall and strikingly handsome, gentle bangs, pale skin, light amber eyes. He wore a faded school uniform, one hand in his pocket, radiating careless elegance. After one glance, he looked away. That's how I suddenly acquired a brother 2 years younger, a future Stanford student, chemistry champion, superior to me in every way. I had no doubt my father would trade me for Asher if he could. At dinner, I piled fish into his bowlfish. I absolutely despised silently declaring my displeasure. Asher watched without speaking. When I stopped, he lowered his head and ate every piece, never spitting out a single bone. My father glared. "You eat it yourself." But with Asher present, he forced a smile. "Starting today, Asher is family. You'll need to look after him. I have plenty of cousins. I don't need another one." My father's smile tightened. "I know you've always wanted a little brother. Well, here he is. Show him where he'll be staying." Ha, sure, when I was little I'd begged for a sibling. But what good was Asher now? A 6-foot-tall infant? Besides, his mother and mine had been rivals. I was naturally opposed to him. I forced brightness into my voice. "All our guest rooms are full of my things. Unless you want him to share my room?" The clatter of chopsticks echoed. Asher, who hadn't spoken until then, finally opened his mouth. His voice was slightly husky, but clear, the kind you could listen to for hours. "I can sleep in the storage room." "Absolutely not." My father shot up. "Share your room? I'm more worried about you being a bad influence on him." He turned to Asher. "Don't worry, I'll set you up properly. We'll throw out whatever needs to go." He stormed off, leaving us at the table. Asher ate slowly, his bangs hiding his eyes. I dropped all pretense. "The room at the far east end of the second floor is yours. The most isolated, with the worst light." He nodded. I took the milk glass beside him. "You're an adult, you don't need this. Also, I don't like people touching my things, and everything here is mine. Understand?" "Yes, I won't touch anything." Since I couldn't kick him out, I'd avoid him. Out of sight, out of mind. The next day, my father left on a business trip. He stroked my head, eyes full of warning. "If I come back and find you've mistreated Asher, I'm cutting off your allowance." Then the carrot. "But if you're getting along when I return, I'll buy those limited edition bags you wanted." I agreed readily. Did he think a few bags could override my hostility? The moment he left, I banned Asher from all entertainment facilities, especially the newly built pool. I gave our staff paid leave. The next morning at dawn, I rushed to his room. Knock, knock, knock. By the third knock, the door opened to reveal his impassive face. He looked down briefly, then turned to let me in. He wore a simple athletic shirt. His bedding was already made, a book open on his desk. As we passed, a pleasant lime scent reached me. The room was freezing. It faced away from the sun, and he'd opened the window. I sneezed. Without a word, he closed it. When he returned, he had a jacket. He hesitated, then placed it on a chair. I wasn't shy. I put it on immediately. The jacket was too big, made of cheap material. Asher must have been poor before. No wonder he was eager to move in. "What are you reading?" I grabbed his book to show off, then froze. "What language is this?" "Japanese edition. Rashomon by Ryunosuke Akutagawa." I'd never heard of this author. "Oh, I'm not into that architectural stuff. Among Japanese writers, I prefer Keigo Higashino, the one who wrote No Longer Human." 2 seconds of silence. "Oh." He left, returning with a chair and water. Only then did I notice the room's emptiness. A bed, desk, chair, window, desolate as autumn itself. In my house, if you needed something, you had to ask. Since he said nothing and my father wasn't home, naturally, no one helped him. I sipped water while propping my feet on his desk, roughly flipping through his book. When I finished, I tossed it into his lap. Even seeing his book mistreated, he didn't react. His expression stayed calm as he pressed long fingers against the wrinkled pages. I stood abruptly. "Asher." He looked up questioningly. But only for a moment. I had to admit Asher was genuinely handsome. Probably the school heartthrob. Those impossibly clear eyes, thick lashes. When he looked at you like that, it could melt anyone. Too bad I wasn't anyone. The housekeeper and groundskeeper are gone. Should you do the housework or should I? I'll do it. Good. I patted his shoulder. He flinched. The second-floor windows need cleaning. Think you can handle that? Yes. Those windows were huge. One wrong move and he could fall. Yet I detected no dissatisfaction. Also, you're making lunch for both of us? Okay. I'm picky. I need nutritious food to maintain my beauty. I'll give you a menu. After the windows, start cooking. I want to eat by noon. Asher glanced at his desk clock. Okay. Like a soft dumpling, completely spineless. That was my first assessment. Only later did I discover this boy also had a terrifyingly obsessive side. He just reserved all his gentleness for me. After assigning tasks, I returned to my room for chips and shows. Warm sunlight made me drowsy. A loud crash jolted me awake. I rushed to the window. Below, Asher stood in the courtyard beside disturbed soil, shirt covered in dirt, cleaning cloth in hand. He looked down at his arm, tried to move, but clearly it hurt. He could only stand there helplessly. Sunlight fell on his dark hair. Behind him stretched green fields. He was so pale he almost glowed, standing confused and silent like a lost puppy. Asher, did you fall? I leaned out. He looked up quickly. When he saw me, his lips moved, and like a child caught misbehaving, he lowered his head. Red seeped through his sleeve. Idiot! Our groundskeeper knew to skip unsafe spots. The second floor wasn't that high, but it must have hurt. Yet Asher didn't call for help. What if I hadn't noticed? Would he just stand there indefinitely? I grabbed alcohol and bandages and ran downstairs. When he saw me, joy flashed in his eyes before he blinked it away. Give me your arm. He didn't comply. Turn around. I'll put medicine on it, then take you to the hospital. He remained motionless. Hurry up. Or should I call 911? After a few seconds, dirty. Dirty? My hands were dirty? I ignored him and forcibly turned him around. After applying medicine, I admired my work with a satisfied whistle. When I looked up, he'd just turned away awkwardly. His ears had turned red. Can you walk? He nodded and started forward. Worried about reopening the wound, I stepped in front of him. Stop, I'll call a car. I turned, but he grabbed my arm. His fingers were cool. He touched me briefly before pulling back like he'd been shocked. No hospital. I'm fine. He limped ahead, steadying himself against the wall. Going home, to cook. Fine. I wouldn't argue. I jogged back and grabbed my menu. After thinking, I crossed off several items. He was the injured party today. I'd give him a break. I took fresh paper and wrote just one dish, scrambled eggs with tomatoes. Surely he could manage that. Asher went above and beyond. Besides that dish, he made braised eggplant, sweet and sour pork ribs, and steamed fish, which I hated. During the meal, I smiled as I piled fish onto his plate. Eat more, you're still growing. He murmured agreement and ate everything. Milk and juice sat nearby, but he didn't touch them. Just watching made me parched. Still, this was good. At least he knew his place understood that as an outsider, he shouldn't freely use household things. The meal passed in silence. Asher automatically started clearing dishes. I picked my teeth while watching. The boy wore our housekeeper's mustard yellow apron, carefully washing each dish. That apron I'd always mocked somehow looked appealing on him. No. How could I feel anything positive toward this guy? I retreated to my room. Behind me, water trickled into my ears. The pattern continued for days. Our only interaction, him cooking, me eating, him washing dishes. He made fish every time. I gave it to him every time. I desperately wanted to shout that I hated it, but whenever I saw those obedient eyes, my anger evaporated. Something was shifting inside me. I'd catch myself watching him wash dishes or notice how carefully he arranged food on my plate. The guilt started small, a whisper when I saw him eating alone, a twinge when I remembered taking his milk. I told myself it was just basic human decency. Nothing more. 2 days later, my father came home unexpectedly. Asher, Autumn, look what I brought you. I emerged from my room. Asher followed a step behind. My father opened his suitcase books, men's clothing, Legos, model kits. Nothing I wanted. So, like them? I scowled. Asher glanced at me, then said slowly, yes. My father threw his arm around Asher's shoulders, fussing over him, mainly asking if I'd bullied him. After receiving a negative answer, he turned to me. Your advisor called. You failed another class. He looked disappointed. Out of 200 students, you're the only one. Where does that leave my reputation? You've always known I'm bad at math, but you insisted I choose this major. I shifted blame expertly. First, I inherited your low IQ. Second, you made me choose this against my will, so half the responsibility is yours." My father wanted to grab his belt, but Asher stopped him. The boy's amber eyes met my father's gaze. "I'm good at calculus. I can tutor. My sister." First time he'd called me his sister. Not only was I stunned, but his eyes flickered with uncertainty. My father was delighted. "Excellent. I'll pay you $2,000 a month. No, $5,000. I'll spare no expense as long as you can help this dummy." I strongly suspected he just wanted an excuse to give Asher money. "I don't need money," Asher started, but my father pushed us both into my room. "Make use of winter break. Study hard together. I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm so glad you're getting along." One final jab. My silly daughter, learn something from this future Stanford student. I sat grinding my teeth. Asher flipped through my pristine calculus textbook. In that moment, I silently vowed, Asher Thorne was my sworn enemy. I thought Asher's offer was just talk, but he genuinely tried to teach me. Evening wind rustled the curtains. Garden lights mingled with moonlight, casting his shadow on the glass. Asher spoke slowly but clearly, each sentence hitting key points. His eyes stayed fixed on the book, expression focused, but my attention wandered. His skin was flawless, practically porcelain. I really wanted to poke it. "This problem has another solution. Look here." He wrote carefully, then looked up suddenly, catching me staring. His face flushed bright red. I found it amusing. "Continue. I'm listening." He nodded, licked his lips, and began calculating earnestly. When he studied, his eyes lit up and his lips curved into an unconscious smile. Unfortunately, despite Asher being an excellent teacher, I had zero interest in calculus. After the clock made several rotations, I dozed off. Half asleep, I heard a quiet sigh. Asher seemed to set down his pen. A moment later, he stood and draped a blanket over me. I fell completely asleep. When I woke, he was gone. Another tutor. I'd literally bored to sleep. Feeling relieved, I stretched, then spotted in the glass reflection the boy standing behind me with a textbook. He noticed me and immediately lowered his head. I wrote the solution steps in the margin. You can review them. He paused. Get some rest. He placed the book on my desk and slowly left. The book still held his warmth. After he left, my room felt emptier. Why did that bother me? The next day, my father left as promised. Before departing, he fussed over Asher while sighing heavily at me. But I knew if I failed another class, I wouldn't graduate, so I continued accepting tutoring. Except every session put me to sleep. Asher was like a sedative. Our staff had been on vacation for a month. My father still hadn't noticed, his mind completely on Asher. Soon, the rainy season arrived. There was a flower in the garden one my late mother and I had planted together. Our groundskeeper always brought it inside before storms. But he wasn't here. I watched anxiously as heavy rain began, wind and water flattening the grass. Finally, I decided to retrieve it myself. I put on a raincoat and headed for the door, but Asher appeared and blocked my path. The boy stood before me, 6 feet tall, looking down with confused eyes. Frantic, I pushed him. "Move! If my flower dies, I'll kill you." He stubbornly stood his ground. I couldn't budge him. After a moment, he said, "The one with the red ribbon? I'll get it." I blinked in surprise. He'd noticed that detail. Before I could respond, "I understand." He rushed into the rain without an umbrella. I stamped my feet anxiously, wanting to chase after him, but wind and rain drove me back. Just as I was getting truly worried, Asher returned, cradling thick soil. He was completely soaked, wet hair making his skin look paler. He showed me the flower, eyes full of joy. "Look, it's fine." The tall, slender boy wore only a thin shirt, carefully using his clothing to shield the flower. Rain droplets rolled down his jawline to the floor, quickly forming a puddle. Something cracked inside my chest, sharp and sudden. I couldn't describe what I felt. I just really wanted to cry. This boy I'd tormented without mercy had noticed a single ribbon on a flower and risked himself to save what mattered to me. Thank you, Asher. We planted the flower together, and Asher went to shower. That night, I lay in bed tossing and turning, thinking about what happened. The clock showed just past 10. He should still be awake. After much hesitation, I knocked on his door. "Asher, are you asleep?" "Asher?" No response. Maybe he'd gone to bed. I sighed and turned to leave, but halfway down the hall, something felt wrong. I returned and pushed open his door. The boy lay pale in bed, trembling. I touched his forehead burning hot. Asher had a fever. Panicked. I called the hospital, found fever-reducing patches, stuck one on his forehead. I brought blankets from my room to pile on him. I felt so guilty. I'd treated him terribly, yet he'd still helped me. Now he had such a high fever and chose to suffer silently. Thinking about it made me cry. Asher, I'm sorry. I'll treat you well from now on. I'll do the cleaning, I'll cook. I won't bully you anymore, okay? The words caught in my throat. I couldn't say them aloud. Not yet, but I could show him. Asher went to the hospital for IV fluids all night, but insisted on coming home the next day. Coincidentally, that was when my father returned. Asher looks thinner. Then, looking at me, Autumn looks fatter. Me. At least this time he'd bought me the promised bags, plus lavish gifts for Asher. For once, I didn't feel jealous. I didn't dare tell him what happened. Asher didn't mention it either. My father believed we were getting along wonderfully. Winter break ended quickly. My college and Stanford were close, so my father assigned me to take Asher to school. Though technically I was taking him. In reality, he took me. The boy rode his bicycle with me, sitting behind. Wind billowed his blue uniform like a sail. I swung my legs as he delivered me to my campus gates, handed me my backpack. Several times I turned suddenly to find Asher still at the gate watching me. He claimed he just liked my campus environment. Something felt off. I gradually realized having this brother wasn't so bad. He took me to and from school. When I got sick of cafeteria food, I'd find him and use his meal card my father had loaded nearly $10,000 on it. Asher ate slowly and methodically. Girls who tried to chat with him or get his number received only distant rejections, including several beautiful ones. I could only shake my head. This tree would never bloom. One day, Asher picked me up and suddenly asked, "Autumn, our school has a basketball game this Saturday. Will you come watch?" I refused without thinking. Kids' basketball games held no appeal. He fell silent. After a while, unable to stand the awkward quiet, I poked him. "Why? Are you playing?" "Yes." He pedaled steadily, then added, "The coach said we could bring family members to cheer us on." Though I sat behind him and couldn't see his face, I somehow sensed that Asher really hoped I'd come. "I'll think about it." I didn't commit either way. But that night, I found myself checking his game schedule online, just to know when it was, just in case. Friday with no classes, I wandered over to Stanford. Just as I reached the stairwell to his floor, I heard rough male voices. "Pretty boy thinks he's tough, stealing another man's girlfriend. Got a death wish? That's my girl, you bastard. Ryan, just wreck him. Look at this arrogant prick, makes me want to beat his face in. A prestigious university with these thugs?" Still, it wasn't my business. I was about to leave when I heard a familiar voice. "Move. I have somewhere to be." "Asher?" The class bell rang. Its shrill sound mixed with a crashing desk, drilling into my ears. I rushed in to find 3 guys pinning Asher to the floor, grabbing his collar. In that instant, fierce rage shot through me uncontrollably. "Stop right now." They froze. Seeing the obvious bruise on Asher's left cheek, I nearly exploded with fury. He was part of my household. Who did these punks think they were? I'd wanted to touch that face since day one, but never did, and they dared to mar it. "You bastards, I'll ruin your faces too." I grabbed a stool and swung with all my strength, hitting them over and over. They didn't react at first, just raised their arms defensively, but after a few blows, they got angry. One guy roughly yanked the stool from my hands and slammed it to the floor. "Bitch, you dare hit me? You think I won't hit a girl? Who dares touch her?" Asher shot to his feet and threw himself at all 3 with reckless abandon, fighting with terrifying intensity. This was the first time I'd witnessed Asher's ferocity. He seemed oblivious to punches landing on him, just kept swinging, fist after fist. He focused especially on the one who'd cursed at me. The other 2 tried to restrain him but couldn't. Students on break quickly gathered outside, watching in stunned disbelief. I was terrified. So were they. They soon retreated, clutching bleeding noses, shouting, "Get a teacher, this guy's insane." Asher's eyes were bloodshot, arms covered in scratches. Messy hair fell across his forehead. Against his pale skin, the bruises looked painfully vivid. I said I had somewhere to be and didn't want trouble. His fists clenched tight, voice low. "But you insisted on asking for it." His eyes held a deathly stillness, yet churned with violent storms. Those guys quickly fled. I touched his bleeding arm with shaking hands, fumbling to apply a bandage. "I'm fine." He seemed to return to his usual docile self. He picked up his bag, dusted it off, and smiled faintly at me. "Let's go." I insisted on going to a pharmacy for disinfectant. I even suggested a rabies shot, which finally made him laugh out loud. This was the first time I'd seen him laugh so openly, eyes crinkling with genuine mirth. "Autumn, thank you." I couldn't help reaching up to ruffle his soft hair. "With me around, don't be afraid." I thought for a moment and added, "From now on, I'll protect you." "Okay." His smile deepened. "You protect me." The words felt natural leaving my mouth. Only later did I realize how much I meant them. Saturday's basketball game, despite my protests at breakfast, I ended up going. I screamed myself hoarse, cheering for him. Asher didn't disappoint, easily evading opponents and sinking three-pointers to thunderous applause. The boy glistened with sweat on the court, sunlight dancing across his white jersey. The basketball traced beautiful arcs through the air. The crowd erupted with excited screams. Finally, he led his team to overwhelming victory. I was about to bring him a towel and water when a tidal wave of people swept past, knocking me aside. I barely caught myself on a seat as a swarm of girls rushed the court, surrounding Asher completely. Of course. Even though Asher was usually quiet and standoffish, such a brilliant boy deserved to shine. I sighed and opened the water bottle to drink it myself, feeling disappointed. But suddenly, a gap appeared in the crowd below. I looked up to see Asher smiling as he walked toward me. His smile always carried a hint of shyness, warm and genuine, with a dimple in his cheek. Thank you for cheering me on, Autumn. Behind him, envious stares from numerous girls burned into me. I cleared my throat awkwardly. When did you notice me? 2021. From the very beginning. Asher raised an eyebrow. From the moment you snuck into the stands, I saw you. He then took the towel from my hand, draped it around his neck, grabbed my water and drank half the bottle before I could stop him. Me. Hungry? Come on. I'll treat you to something good. Great. Thank you, Autumn. Asher responded happily, then took my hand. The warmth of our touching fingertips made me tingle. I felt like I was dreaming as he led me out of the gymnasium. Only after we left campus and he got on his bicycle, gesturing for me to climb on, did I snap out of it. What do you want to eat? His voice sounded cheerful. Me? Anything. How about Korean barbecue? Sure. Hold on tight. Asher suddenly pushed off hard. I nearly fell backward and quickly grabbed his shirt. I felt his body tremble. He was definitely holding back laughter. Annoyed, I pinched him, and he finally behaved. During the meal, we didn't talk much. Asher silently played the server role. Near the end, he looked down and said quietly, I'm really happy you came to cheer me on today. Long lashes hid all the emotion in the boy's eyes. I made a confused sound. Asher smiled and placed grilled beef in my bowl. I know you're the best person to me, Autumn. That statement made me feel incredibly guilty. I shifted uncomfortably, eating what he'd grilled while memories of bullying him flashed uncontrollably through my mind. My head dropped lower and lower, my face growing hot with shame. When he spoke again, his voice was soft, almost wondering. I'm shy around people, afraid of water, and lactose intolerant. You're the first person who's ever considered my needs. As he finished that last word, he looked up at me, eyes bright. But at the same moment, I started coughing violently. The irony wasn't lost on me. Every cruel thing I'd done thinking I was punishing him had been interpreted as kindness. The isolated room because he was shy, no pool because he feared water, no milk because he was intolerant. I'd accidentally given him exactly what he needed while trying to hurt him. And he'd noticed everything. The red ribbon on my mother's flower, my hatred of fish, my need for sleep during tutoring. While I'd been blind to everything about him, guilt drove me to do something nice. When summer arrived, I bought 2 concert tickets to take him out. Asher was obviously excited, carefully dressing up before we left. I had to admit, in decent clothes, he transformed completely. If before he'd had an innocent student vibe, now he was a certified heartthrob. His previously gentle bangs now swept stylishly to the sides. The only constant was that pleasant lime scent, which always made me feel at ease. The concert was nothing but screaming. Colorful lights gave me a headache. Asher had initially been enthusiastic about his first concert, but noticing my discomfort, he insisted we leave. Walking down the street, I held the yogurt he'd just bought me, awkwardly saying, Sorry about that, Asher. He shielded me from passing crowds while shaking his head that it was fine. We walked like that, a cool night breeze bringing relief. He was about to drape his jacket over my shoulders when a figure appeared ahead. I stopped. Landon Gray, my high school classmate and ex-boyfriend. We'd broken up 2 years ago due to long distance. He glanced at Asher, then focused on me with a gentle smile. What a coincidence, Autumn. Who's this? Asher's expression cooled. He placed his jacket on my shoulders and answered for me. Autumn's brother. Landon smiled. I never knew you had a brother. Running into exes was always awkward. I mumbled something vague and grabbed Asher's hand to leave, but Landon blocked our path. His attractive eyes, the feature that had originally drawn me in, now looked at me with what seemed like rekindled affection. Autumn, 2 years apart, you're even more beautiful. Thanks. You don't need to tell me that. I kept my head down, trying to walk around him, but he grabbed my arm from behind. Asher immediately tensed, but the next second, let's get back together. My heart skipped a beat. Landon said seriously, I regret it. Let's get back together. The moon was beautiful tonight. Just like countless nights during high school study sessions, when Landon would help me with homework during breaks, I still remembered tree shadows swaying outside, falling across his shoulders and into my heart. I stood frozen for a moment, then told Asher to wait for me nearby. When I found him later, he was crouching by the roadside, hugging his knees, like an abandoned puppy curled into itself. Asher stared at the ground, lost in thought. Night wind tousled his bangs. His frame looked painfully thin. Silly boy. I ran over and pulled him to his feet, putting his jacket back on him. Asher stubbornly resisted. His amber eyes looked at me unblinkingly, then slowly formed a smile. "Did you get back together with him?" His voice was calm, but carried a bitter edge. I lifted my chin proudly. "You've heard about Landon, right? Top student in the state, also going to Stanford, currently studying abroad. And as you saw, he's handsome, lots of girls chase him. Can't believe he'd wait for me." I noticed from the corner of my eye that with each word, Asher's gaze grew darker. "So," I emphasized the word. Of course I turned him down. Asher's head shot up, eyes full of shock and disbelief. "Sure, he's impressive, but I'm not so bad myself, you know?" I patted his shoulder. "I'm this gorgeous, why would I settle for leftovers? I'll definitely find someone even better." Asher's lips moved. He asked gently, "What kind of person do you want?" I counted on my fingers. Tall, handsome, smart since I'm not, caring, and listens to me. Then, Asher's Adam's apple bobbed, voice slightly hoarse. "Any age requirements?" My breath caught. He'd already taken my hand. His voice sounded dry, faintly trembling. "Autumn, I like you. I've liked you since the first moment I saw you. I don't want to be your brother. I get jealous when other guys approach you. Give me a chance to take care of you always, okay?" The streetlight above us flickered. In its unstable glow, Asher's face shifted between light and shadow, his expression achingly vulnerable. I thought about the flower he'd saved in the rain, the way he'd fought for me, how he'd noticed every small thing I loved and hated, how he'd interpreted my cruelty as kindness because he wanted so desperately to be cared for. After what felt like forever, I forcibly suppressed my wildly rising smile. "Okay." The moon bore witness as I stole a boy's first kiss. To avoid my father having a breakdown, we agreed to keep our relationship secret and gradually tell him later. Asher and I still went out together as before, but instead of walking separately in silence, we now held hands and went on dates everywhere. Still, my father discovered our underground romance quickly. The cause? He was cleaning Asher's room and found his diary. Neat, strong handwriting filled a thick notebook with private thoughts. My father sat silently on the couch. He'd only called me down, not Asher. I casually flipped open the diary and froze. "Autumn is so good to me. She takes such good care of me. I swear I'll protect her with my life. I hate physical contact with people. Except Autumn." Further down, the tone shifted. Today, I saw Autumn greeting her classmate. I admit I was jealous. In that moment, I desperately wanted to pull her to my side, make it so she could only talk to me, only smile at me. But I can't. I'm afraid she'll get angry. Afraid she'll ignore me. Never liked fish before, but after meeting Autumn, I discovered fish tastes pretty good. My throat tightened. He'd eaten all that fish I'd piled on him, every single bone, because it came from me. And occasionally, wild, agitated writing. "I only want you. Is that too much? I just want you with me. Dreamed about her again last night. How ridiculous even in dreams. I still don't dare look at you." The handwriting here was messier, pressed deeper into the page. I could feel the intensity behind each stroke. On the diary's final page, the night we confirmed our relationship, just one simple line. "When I close my eyes, there's endless darkness. When I open them, I see you standing in the light." I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to suppress the bittersweet ache in my chest. He'd liked me for so long, yet I'd bullied him repeatedly, carelessly trampling the heart he offered. "You and Asher are really together?" I nodded at my father, eyes red. He said nothing. After a long while, he sighed heavily and stood to leave. "Dad, you can't go after Asher." I panicked, blocking his path, afraid he'd hurt him. But my father looked at me like I was an idiot. Why would I? I should thank him for taking my dummy daughter off my hands. Then my father began listing every mistake and mishap from my childhood, contrasting me with the excellent, accomplished Asher. By the end, his voice was choked with emotion. "Autumn, the truth is, I know. I've always been unfair to you and your mother. Even when she was alive and I tried to play the good father and husband, I knew it was all from guilt. Because my heart. I gave it all to Asher's mother long ago." I stayed silent. My father's voice trembled. "I've failed at life. When I was young, I didn't understand my own heart. By the time I wanted to make amends, I'd already hurt 2 women. I just hope you and Asher won't repeat my mistakes. When you find someone you love, pursue them bravely. I'll always support you both. Dad, I finally broke down, throwing myself into his arms. For the first time, I understood. My father had spent his whole life loving the wrong person at the wrong time. He'd brought Asher home not just out of obligation to a lost love, but as a chance to rewrite his own mistakes through us. He wanted us to have what he never could love without regret. With my father's support, Asher and I went from underground to official. He also bashfully changed how he addressed my father from Mr. Mercer to Dad. When Asher reached legal marriage age, we got our marriage license. Now I could finally openly poke that face I'd been coveting since day one. The morning after we registered, I woke to find Asher already awake, propped on one elbow, watching me with soft eyes. "What?" I mumbled, still half asleep. "Nothing." He smiled, that dimple appearing in his cheek. "Just thinking about how you gave me the coldest room in the house." I groaned and pulled the blanket over my head. "Are you ever going to let that go?" "Never." His voice was warm with amusement. He pulled the blanket down and kissed my forehead. "Because that's when I knew." "Knew what?" "That you noticed me. Even your cruelty meant you were paying attention." His amber eyes crinkled. "I would have taken anything from you, Autumn, even your worst. As long as you saw me." My chest tightened with that familiar ache. "You're ridiculous." "Maybe." He pulled me closer, and I felt his heartbeat steady against mine. "But I'm yours." "Thanks, Dad, for bringing home my husband. And thanks, Asher, for seeing light in my darkness when I only meant to give you shadow." The end.